investing in oil and gas has always required a certain level of tolerance for volatility, even in the best of times. With President Trump back in office, though, I'm expecting a lot less calm. So as the market grapples with a wave of executive orders and discussions about tariffs, I think we've got to consult an expert to see how all this affects the energy market. That's why we're checking in with Rusty Braziel. He's founder and executive chairman of RBN Energy, my favorite energy analyst by far. Just shed some light on the subject. Rusty, welcome back to Mad Money. Great to have you in person.
Jim, great to be here in person. It's been a while.
Fantastic. Now, Rusty, there are a lot of things that are being said about energy and what can happen. I look to you as someone who might say maybe it can't happen.
Yeah.
For instance, if a president says drill, baby, drill, do the big executives of oil just say, you know what, it's time to start drilling more?
I don't think it works that way. For one thing, all the orders that came out on Monday basically do away with any kind of obstacle that would prevent somebody drill, baby, drilling. Okay. But to be motivated to drill, baby, drill, I've got to do the right thing for my shareholders, your customers. And so that means that if I drill, baby, drill, I'm going to create more production. And what happens when production goes up? Prices go down. Well, if prices go down for the big producers, they're going to actually pay less money in terms of dividends. So I'm not at all sure how this is all going to play out.
But Rusty, I'll take the opposite side on that. How about a prisoner's dilemma? How about if I'm the guy who decides I'm going to drill more and the other guys aren't? Then I clean up and I really do what's right for my shareholders.
And if that's the case, that's fine. But keep in mind that the energy business always moves herd instinct. Right. Everybody always does the same thing at the same time. And that may be a little bit of an overstatement, but not by much.
Okay, now I heard all day today, the national energy emergency. There is no energy emergency. But is there in some ways an energy emergency when it comes to data centers and demand for electricity and demand for fuel to make electricity?
Depends on your definition of emergency. Okay. If emergency is what happened in the 1970s when Carter was president, we had lines all the way around, the block.
Right.
Nobody declared a national emergency then. Now we've got a national emergency. So what is the emergency? The emergency is we need to implement more production, more transportation, more use of fossil fuels, and to do that, we need to eliminate a lot of barriers. So what Trump has done is basically invoke a emergency that gives each of the jurisdictions, each of departments, the ability to access emergency authorities. And those emergency authorities can be used by anybody for anything, not just AI, not just data centers.
But I read I read you every day, and you talked about, you got some top 10 things. One thing is certain, you make it clear, there are so many courts and rules that can't be overturned, and courts that can block, that even there, the president may not be as important as we think.
The president is going to do everything that he can, but the courts are going to be a big problem. As a matter of fact, you can look at essentially all the orders, or many of the orders that came out on Monday, reversed essentially everything that Biden did.
Right.
That's really, if you list, it's just list after list out of things that are getting reversed. That's all things that Trump can do.
Right.
But Trump can't make the courts go away.
Right.
So now my view is the courts are the problem.
Okay, now let's talk about a different kind of emergency. Let's say you wanted oil to come down or natural gas to be, of course, shipped more. Is there a strategy that may actually be geopolitical? Would President Trump be trying to say, put pressure on Russia, on the ruble, on how much money they have by lowering the price of oil, making it more difficult for them to pay for the war?
I think that's what they're talking about. But I would question how effective that's going to be. Because Biden tried that. Biden, when the Ukrainian invasion first happened, Biden was going to go out and basically do everything that he could to cut Russian exports to zero. But then somebody mentioned, Joe, if you do that, that's going to take 5 million barrels off the world market. Prices are going to go up. Gasoline prices are going to go up, and you're not going to get reelected. And at that point in time, they kicked in this goofy program of limiting the price to $60, which is never going to work. Right. And somehow go ahead and let Russia keep producing, but lower the amount that they could get for their oil. It did not work. So now the question is, and there's a piece in the Wall Street Journal today about the possibility of Trump actually kicking in serious sanctions on Russia, which would reduce that 5 million barrels of exports to something a whole heck of a lot less. And if that were to happen, it could make a big difference in Russian economy and whatever happens in the war.
All right, good, more direct, less necessarily going to affect our market. Now, speaking of our market, how about this IPO, Venture Global? It was looking like it was going to be one of the biggest deals. It's supposed to come this week. The aspiring $110 billion energy company banking on Trump's return. You hear anything about this thing?
We talked to them a lot. They are really good. They are darn right. They've been extremely successful. They have been extremely aggressive in the way that they have approached the market. They have basically cashed in on their leading. They're not leaders compared to Cheniere, but by golly, they've been right there with them, and they have implemented a number of facilities where they have been able to cash in before their customers. Their customers don't necessarily like that. But they're cashing in before the customers. The money is in the bank, and my guess is it's going to be a darn good IPO.
Wow. Okay, well, then let's go one step further. The LNG pipelines, you told me that the president, the first thing he would do would be reverse the pause. The pause did some serious damage, didn't it?
Oh, well, it depends on your definition of damage. So there's 8 LNG facilities that are operating right now. The pause didn't do anything to them. There were 4 facilities that were in the works coming online. It backed one of them off a little bit, but not by much. 2 of them are actually coming online right now as we speak. And another one had problems with their contractor and could not get the thing going. There's another 8 projects that basically were held back because of the pause.
That's a lot of money, a lot of jobs, too.
But the pause is going away, and all of these guys are celebrating tonight, except they've got their lawyers all in a room right now because 5 of the 8 have legal sanctions against them right now. And the question is, what's going to happen to the courts? If the courts basically hold up everything that the pause was holding up, then, hey, these guys are still sitting there. But they weren't going to be able to be online for years anyway. The 4 guys that are working right now, they're going to be online by the end of 2026.
Last thing, I know because I read you every day for many years, you're loath to just say, listen, gasoline's going to go here, natural gas is going to go there. But which of these are going to be the most volatile and that we should be most concerned of giant moves? Nat gas, gasoline, oil, what do you think?
My sense is it's natural gas. Natural gas has been held down for a long time. I mean, let's face it, natural gas prices are $4 today, and it's really cold out there. So what's going to happen to natural gas? We're going to start exporting a lot more LNG. Those 4 facilities are going to come online. We're not going to be able to catch up drill, baby, drill soon enough, and the price is going to go up. That, I think, is a pretty sure thing. That's an inflationary word to end things on, but but it's a continuum with you, and that's why I love reading you first thing every single morning. That's Rusty Braziel, founder and executive chairman of RBN Energy. I feel that can go toe-to-toe with anyone in that energy business because of this man. Thank you, Rusty. Mad Money's back after the break.
Coming up, fresh off a new subscriber record, can Netflix keep the viewers watching? Cramer's breaking down the earnings. Next. Don't miss a second of Mad Money. Follow @Jim Cramer on X. Have a question? Tweet Cramer. #MadMentions. Send Jim an email to madmoney@cnbc.com or give us a call at 1-800-743-CNBC. Miss something? Head to madmoney.cnbc.com.